Okay, we're about to dive into a topic you probably never knew was a thing, the surprisingly deep and, dare I say, complex world of forklift humor. It sounds a little absurd, I know, but stick with me because it actually tells us something really fascinating about how we find joy in our day-to-day work.
I mean, it's a fair question, right? We're talking about a 4-ton piece of industrial equipment. It's powerful, it's practical, but is it funny? Well, that's exactly what we're here to find out.
So we're not just here to, list off a bunch of jokes. We're actually here to take them apart, see what makes them tick, and really understand what they tell us about the people who tell them. We are going to deconstruct the forklift joke. First up, let's talk about the comedy of machinery. See, forklift humor isn't happening in a vacuum. It's actually part of a much bigger tradition. Have you ever wondered why pretty much every job, from doctors to coders, seems to have its own special brand of inside jokes?
Well, the answer is something called industry humor. You can think of it as an inside joke, but on a massive scale. It's like a secret handshake in joke form. It signals that you belong, that you get it, and that you've been through the same unique experiences. Whether that's dealing with a specific software bug or, operating a very specific piece of heavy machinery.
All right, let's get into the jokes themselves. Our first category, puns about forks. And no surprise here, this is kind of the lowest hanging fruit. These are the jokes that really zero in on the most obvious word in the machine's name. Okay, here's a classic example for you. The setup is super simple, it's direct, and it paints this slightly ridiculous picture in your head. You can almost feel the punchline coming a mile away. And there it is, a forklift. Look, it's not trying to be the cleverest joke in the world. This is humor at its most basic. It's a simple pun, and it's designed to get a collective groan from the room. And that groan, believe it or not, is a really powerful way to build a sense of community.
Here's another spin on the fork pun. This time, though, it's wrapped up in this little story, this moment of personal pride.
So the punchline here works because it creates this totally absurd contrast in scale. It takes this massive, powerful machine and just shrinks it down to a simple dinner utensil. Suddenly, this certified professional operator is basically a toddler learning how to eat.
Now this last fork joke, this one takes it to its most logical and frankly beautiful conclusion. A forklift. Forklifting. The humor here is just the pure irony of it all. It's so literal that it becomes almost surreal. It's the perfect visual gag, just playing on the name in the most direct way you possibly can.
Okay, moving on. Our next category, jokes that are uplifting. So, if the first type of joke was all about the machine's name, this one is all about its primary function, lifting stuff.
This one starts off with a really simple, everyday kind of setup, which actually makes the pun even more effective when it finally lands.
And there it is. It's a perfect, gentle little play on the double meaning of uplifting. Yeah, they physically lift things, that's their job, but the joke gives them this wonderful, wholesome quality of lifting people's spirits, too. It's just a nice, positive pun.
Let's try one more lifting joke. But this one adds a whole new layer to it by setting the scene in a distillery.
And bam! It's a double pun. See, he's literally lifting crates of alcoholic spirits, while at the same time he's figuratively lifting the mood of everyone around him. This joke's a bit more complex because it really relies on two different meanings of the word spirits to make that final lifting pun work so well.
Okay, now for my absolute favorite category. Because within this whole world of forklift humor, there is a very specific and very, very wholesome subgenre, the forklift dad joke. And believe it or not, it has a surprisingly rigid formula.
The formula is just beautifully simple, and it almost always follows these 3 steps. And the humor here comes from the dad's complete inability to think outside of his practical, forklift-centric view of the world.
Here it is, the absolute perfect example. A timeless, heartfelt question from a son to his father. He's looking for wisdom, right? For guidance in this incredibly complex world of human relationships.
And there's the punchline. The dad isn't being rude or dismissive. His brain just defaults to the most literal, mechanical solution available to him. It's this perfect, wholesome collision of 2 completely different worlds. All right, here's one last dad joke for you. And this one's great because it combines the dad joke format with that utensil pun we talked about earlier.
It's just the quintessential dad joke. It's short, it's simple, and it is guaranteed to get either a little chuckle or a massive eye roll. He just hears the question, "What does a forklift?" and answers it as if they're talking about what's for dinner. It is perfectly, beautifully literal.
So, after all that, why does any of this actually matter? Why spend all this time deconstructing these silly puns about industrial equipment? Well, because as it turns out, these jokes are doing some very important work. These jokes, they really reinforce a group's identity. They take workplace jargon and turn it into something fun. They create a kind of shared, coded language. And maybe most importantly, they help people find joy in what can sometimes be a pretty mundane job. Ultimately, they aren't just jokes. They're a way of saying, hey, you and I, we're part of the same club.
And really, this isn't just about forklifts. Every single profession has its own version of the forklift joke, its own little verbal secret handshake. Which leaves just one final question. What's the joke that only you and your colleagues would ever truly get?